Right, hi folks. So, I've just come out of the complex needs meeting, and some really good ideas, some really interesting talks. I did my little spiel on the anger group, which I co-founded with John Connolly. It's a group for the homeless. And to cut a very long story short, John approached me because he was approached by Westminster Council to develop anger management for the homeless guys, because there's lots of issues around them being denied access to services because of their issues around anger and so forth and what have you. So anyway, the thing is that that led me to think that because of the chaotic nature of people when they're homeless, they wouldn't be able to conform to a sort of strict anger management sort of course sort of thing. So between the two of us, we developed this thing called the anger group, which I loosely and very loosely based on a sort of AA kind of style of meeting type of thing. And like I said, very, very loosely, in the sense that it's a drop-in, that you know, it's about an hour and a half. You know, people can contribute if they want to or they don't, and it's supposed to be a supportive group for people at different various levels of the journey, and you know, some people will be able to support others, maybe make suggestions about how they handle certain situations where they were constantly getting angry. And anyway, it's evolved since then. I'm no longer involved with the anger group because basically since I went self-employed, I've not had the time necessarily to devote to the group. So I've stepped back from that group for a good while now. But John's invited me back on the 18th to just drop in and say hello. Apparently the group's gone from strength to strength. They now sort of like average about 11, anywhere between 11 and 18 people sometimes can turn up. And it's turned much more into a therapy group. And that's just organically. It's not anything that me and John or John himself has introduced, although he is a counsellor, a therapist. He just guides it, and basically the group's grown organically from what the guys themselves wanted out of that group, and that's really good to hear. You know, something that I co-founded is still flourishing 4 years down the line. So I'm quite proud of that, actually. That's something I've done in my life that's, you know, a really good positive thing, and I'm happy about that. And it'd be good to pop in on it and see how it's evolved. And you know what I mean? It'd be good to see a couple of the old faces as well. Apparently some of the original guys are still attending that group. So yeah. And there was a couple of other things as well. I was trying to think off the top of my head. Me and John went for a little coffee afterwards, and we were discussing a few other ideas. One of the things I was thinking about was a crisis centre for homeless people who are going through crisis. Because what people don't always appreciate, I don't think, see, and what people don't realise, and I don't know who's going to be watching this video. I've got, obviously there's some people I know who watch this regularly, but I'm not sure about all of the people that watch these videos, and some people may not have come from these or experienced this, or know people who experience homelessness. The thing is that, you know, it always amazes me how people think it's purely just that they're lazy, that they don't want to work, or they don't want to do this, or whatever, blah, 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 or they actively choose that lifestyle. Now, don't get me wrong, some people do. There is as diverse reasons of people as homeless as there are diverse people on this planet. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is that, like, you know, the reasons for homelessness will vary from individual to individual. But a common theme that runs through most of those people is that they will have come from a background of trauma, and there'll be trauma in their life somewhere, especially in childhood, and then there'll be the complication of using drugs or alcohol, or both of those things, and the trouble with that is that it makes it an extremely complex situation. I mean, that's why it's called the Complex Needs Group that we've set up. That was the other thing that I co-founded with John that I attended today. And like I say, the thing is that people don't really fully appreciate that a person that's homeless on the street is not necessarily just a case of simple give them a set of keys and here's the house and then just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? A lot of these people have very complex needs. Do you know what I mean? And you know, at the end of the day, it's not about just giving free handouts, this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. It's about helping to empower these people, to empower themselves. You know, a lot of them come from a very disadvantaged situation, and you know, you don't. I don't know. Sometimes it just makes me really angry that people just dismiss people like that. Do you know what I mean? I see a homeless person, I see the possibilities and the potential that that person could have, given the right circumstances, given the right kind of help, you know. Yes, there are some people that, you know, you get to the stage where you become entrenched. I was essentially entrenched homeless. You know, the thing is, I lived on the streets for 20 years, and the thing is, it is possible. It is possible, given the right circumstances. And yes, of course, it's like the old adage says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You've got to want that help as well. And again, it all, you know, human beings are so complex. There's nothing black and white about human beings. And the thing is that, like, you can never say what's going to help one person or help the next person. It's all just about trying to be there in the moment for that person. You know, and I was thinking about this crisis centre where, you know, because some people have come back from, like I say, they have trauma in their life. Some people have been abused, either sexually or emotionally or whatever. Some people have come from abused backgrounds, and that abuse stays with them. And that possibly has contributed to their homelessness because of those traumas that they've not been able to deal with. And so therefore they use drugs or alcohol as a way of coping. And trying to cover up those things because they're too painful to face, and then every now and again those things will come out, you know, because ultimately they come out. They surface at some point or other. They can't stay hidden forever, so eventually they surface. Something could trigger them, and you know, they could end up self-harming. They could harm other people. You know, for some people it comes out in aggression. You know, and then they start attacking other people or whatever, and then they get a reputation for being some sort of bully or whatever, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. But if you look deep enough into the background and you find that that person's reacted to something that they've tried to hide from themselves for many, many, many years, and they use drugs or alcohol, and for a little while that might work, but there'll be a time when it doesn't work and it comes out, and you know, that person's in crisis at that moment. And I was thinking maybe set up some sort of centres where specifically for homeless people that can go to in those times where they just need some support and some help, and that can take any shape or form. You know what I mean? Just somebody listening to their story, just somebody listening to their trauma. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is, and then it doesn't have to be anything else after that if they don't want it. Do you know what I mean? You can't force people to do stuff. Do you know what I mean? You can't force people to have therapy. It doesn't work. It's proven it doesn't work. You've got to want it. But that doesn't mean to say that you should deny people any kind of access to any kind of support or help. Do you know what I mean? People have to do it when they're ready. Do you know what I mean? And as frustrating and as maybe annoying as that can be for some people, you know, why can't these homeless people do this? Or why all the help they've got all these soup kitchens, they've got this and they've got that. You know, there's no one simple answer to these things, and some people think like, oh well, I'll give up then. Well, no, that's not the attitude either, because how's that going to help, and how's that going to solve the issue? Do you know what I mean? You've just got to try. Just keep doing your little bit. You don't have to go overboard and be a complete philanthropist and I don't know, build 1,000 homes for homeless people or whatever. I mean, yeah, you can do that if that's what you want to do, and that'd be great. That could probably help as well. But you know, it's just about plugging away slowly but surely over time, doing what you can to the limited ability that you have. You know what I mean? To try and help as much as you can. But anyway, that's my little thing. And there was a couple of other things that me and John were speaking about in terms of trying to help. You know, initiate other little groups, other little ways of trying to help people. You know, open up about some of these histories that they do have. And I mean, again, like I said, I'm not saying that every homeless person on the street has got an abusive history. Do you know what I mean? That isn't the case. It's like I say, that it's as varied as there are human beings on this planet. So, you know, it's a very complex situation. But that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't try and help. Do Do you know what I mean? So, and as I say, you know, I do my little bit. I try my best. I try and do what I can. You know, I still have my own issues at times, but I'm glad to say that the more I work with homeless people, the more I do on this, the more that actually helps me as well. Do you know what I mean? It helps me with my own issues. You know, it gives me a sense of purpose, a sense of like I'm doing something worthwhile with my life instead of sitting on the street corner begging for money and just getting the next can of beer. You know, I'm glad to say that those days are behind me. That doesn't mean to say that, you know, if I don't keep doing the things I'm doing and go to meetings and so forth and what have you, for me, you know, that helps me to stay on that same path sort of thing for now. Do you know what I mean? But I don't, you know, I can't take my eye off the ball. You know what I mean? And forget where I come from and all. You know what I mean? Forget my roots. You know, the thing is, as soon as I start doing that, that's on the road back down to that. Do you know what I mean? Back down to homelessness and picking up a drink and all the rest of it. And those are the last things I want to be doing. So it's also about looking after myself as well at the same time. Anyway, so like I say, I've really enjoyed today. It's been really useful. Picked up a good lot of useful stuff. You know, hopefully we'll get a few more things going. It's now starting to rain, so I'm going to have to turn and stop videoing here because like my camera's going to get wet and I don't want it to get broken. So it's been trying for the last hour or so. It's definitely going to rain at some point, even though it's still quite hot out here. Right, I'm going to have to turn the camera off now because it's definitely starting to get slightly heavier. Right, so I'll catch you guys later, and I'll try and do some more video a bit later on. Catch you guys in a bit. Bye for now.